you stop going out and really trying to source women and practice opening and talking to women. The number one reason I find that people are screwing up with their game is that they're not practicing or training enough. That is the number one reason. Okay. So, and we got five reasons. So that's just number one for today. Then I'm sure there's more of a possible of five reasons. But what I usually see though is that guys are not taking enough action. That's probably the biggest problem is that they're not getting out there. They're not sourcing enough. They're not having enough conversations with women and they're not trying to close enough. They're not going on enough dates. I mean, they're just not doing that work. They're learning the material. They're trying to watch things on YouTube, whatever, watch different stuff. And they're just not getting out there and improving their situation. They're basically getting the reward of feeling like they're improving their situation, but they're not actually going out and getting the real reward of having better quality of women in their lives and better dates. And so that's the thing. And then some of you guys will get some success and then you'll get in that rut of having your different plates, but those plates you're not exactly happy with. They're okay for now. They're okay for somebody to keep you company in a casual situation, but you're really not changing your circumstance. And so you get a girl or two that you're dealing with, and then you stop going out and really trying to source women and practice opening and talking to women. And so what ends up happening there is then a girl comes along that you really are interested in, someone who's really good looking, really hot or whatever, or you run into that circumstance, and then your game is weak. You can't calibrate yourself the way that you want in order to move that process along. And so that's what happens to just so many guys. It's like, oh, I saw this really hot girl and I went to talk to her and I just blew it. And it's like, but they were nervous on the approach. They fumbled over their words. They didn't really assess the situation very well, which is a big part of it. And their inner game was off going in there. So their mind just wasn't right. They just didn't convey the right message to her, or were not able to pick up the right signals from her. And so, that stuff takes practice. And I don't care what you know. I don't care how good you are. If you're not out there talking to women, and if you have a lull in that, that's anybody. That's me. That's anybody and everybody. And if they say differently, they're lying to you. Okay. And obviously someone with more experience, is going to pick it up where they left off a lot quicker than somebody with less experience. But there is an element of just where that gets a little bit rusty. It's almost like a muscle, it's a skill set of being able to engage and build rapport quickly and then to lead a social interaction. And that skill set requires practice. It's like public speaking, or think of anything. You take the best stand-up comedian in the world. Yeah, if they go on stage for the first time, like they're going to fumble around a little bit, with some of their bits and some of their stuff. Let's say if it's that stand-up comedian, no matter who he is, how good he is, it's not going to come across as polished. This is why guys go on tour. This is why guys take new material to clubs, right? And then they figure it out. By the time you watch their Netflix special, they've done those bits time in, time out, and they've worked out the bugs, and the kinks. And so, people who are really good at this stuff, we make it look effortless, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't effort that went into making it look effortless, right? And there's always an amount of calibration and practice. And a lot of it's just getting your inner state right, which, we'll get into that a little bit in a second. But if you're not practicing, if you're just not getting out there, you lose that little bit of calibration. And so that's even for the best guys who are the best. And so if that happens to everybody who's the best, like they need to calibrate a little bit, what do you think is going to happen to you? If you're it's not something that you necessarily teach, right? It's not your best skill set in the world. Even if you're really good, it's not necessarily your best skill set. You just learned some stuff and just learned how to do some pickup stuff. You're probably not, if you're not out there getting repetitions in and practicing and training, then you're just not going to do well. Your results are not going to be as good. And so that's the first thing is action. You just have to take action. Taking the action in a lot of ways is more important than taking the right action sometimes. You know what I mean? And so that's something to think about, because as you interact with people, you're going to start to calibrate what you're doing a little bit to try to point you towards better results. So even if you learned some really crappy skills and methods, you're probably still going to improve just because you're simply going out there and doing it. I of course would hope you get the right stuff eventually, but it's like the improvement is going to happen in the action, and all of the theory and the practice and watching passively other people do it through some infields or this, that, and the other, and ruminating over it and thinking about it, that doesn't replace getting out there and doing it. I mean, that's just a fact. And there's nothing wrong. Like, you could have somebody who's giving you tons of theory and it's all correct theory. It's all the correct stuff, but you still have to take it. It doesn't matter what they do. All right. You still have to take it and get out there and do it for you. All right. And so that's the biggest thing. Now, what can you do if you're not, besides simply like, trying to close every single woman on a date? What other intermediary things can you do? Because sometimes you're not around like women that you want to necessarily take out, right? Sometimes you're not in that circumstance. So what can you do? Well, you can practice just opening and talking to people in general. That is a very valuable warm-up skill, right? Is practicing just opening people and opening women. It has nothing to do with taking it anywhere. It has nothing to do with trying to get anything out of them. It's simply the art of social interaction and making a human to human connection. I mean, a big part of picking up on women is simply that, just making a connection to another human being and then taking that interaction where you want. And so you can get a lot of repetition and practice, even if there aren't hot girls around that you want to talk to. Okay. Just by doing that and just by practicing and rehearsing that. And then you could also rehearse some of your skills with maybe somebody or a partner or a coach, and actually role play. Role playing can be a valuable skill too, right? And so you could role play stuff happening in the intermediate. Now, you still want to get in front of good looking girls and risk yourself getting shot down. And in fact, you will get shot down a few times, and that's okay. You still want to get out there and talk to people, and you want to make it, like I said, you make it a game. Like we call it game, but you actually want to make it like that. It's not that serious. They don't know you. You don't know them. You know what I mean? Nobody's getting hurt. You're just simply making a connection and moving it along. All right. So get out there and do it. That's number one. All right. The biggest reason people are not doing well is they simply don't do it. And then that's why. All right.